Thank you very much, Adam, for this interview, with so many things to catch up with since your last interview with us. I want to start with the situation in Gaza. There is so much pressure from the hostage families on the Netanyahu government to do something. With the collapse of the ceasefire, what is the fate of the U.S. hostage now?
I mean, it's as you know, my primary focus is to bring people home. And I think it's what everybody wants, save a few. And those few are the people that we all fight against. They're extremists that want to hurt and kill people. That's Hamas, that's ISIS, that's Al-Qaeda. It's all different names. But I know what Israel wants, I know what the United States wants, and I know what our Arab allies want. And that's an end to this. And we've been working very closely with Israel, but beyond Israel, with Saudi, with UAE. I'm in Doha all the time, Qatar-wise, with Egypt, to bring an end to this, because we need to clamp this down. And the reality here is it all goes down to one country, Iran. And Iran, who attacked Saudi, who, this extremism that threatens things, that's the source, and that's what we're all fighting against.
I'm going to ask you about the role of the Arab allies and on Iran, but I just want to focus on Gaza now. Do you think there is a chance, with demonstrations now from against Hamas in Gaza that we've seen in the last 2 days, and the pressure from the hostage families, that something will happen? Do you think we can resume the talks soon?
I do. I want to say that the people that went out and protested against Hamas took great personal risk. And I think that there's a massive opportunity to end this and bring people home. It has to be done the right way, but I think seeing people on the street recognizing that Hamas has done them a huge disservice, that's very powerful.
So do you still want to negotiate with them regarding Aidan Alexander, which is the only living American hostage in Gaza?
We will stop at nothing if it means getting Americans home, including Aidan. There are 4 bodies of American citizens there. But I will say President Trump has given a very specific charge, which is to bring Aidan and those 4 bodies home, and also to bring all home from a hostage perspective. So they're connected. This isn't an in and out from our perspective. And it's the way we're going to bring stability to the region. And that's what Steve Witkoff's working on. We work very closely on these things. But I will tell you something. If it means release of hostages, we're always open to having a dialogue. But it's got to be the right circumstances, and it's got to mean the end of terror.
All right. You're the one yourself who did have face-to-face talks with Hamas. And you said the purpose was in order to facilitate releasing the hostages. Are you willing to do it again if that means releasing U.S. hostages?
I think President Trump is always willing to have dialogue. It doesn't mean we're accepting any deal. And I want to be very clear. I walked away from those talks. I walked away, and then Steve Witkoff had to walk away. So there were some messages given if Hamas is serious about ending this, and I think they know. And so if Hamas is serious about ending this, if people are serious, then they can move on the hostage side, they can disarm and move things forward. And so they know it. And so the dialogue can be had any time, but it's got to be under the right terms. And President Trump always reserves the right to talk to people, but it doesn't mean we're weak.
What is the right terms?
The right terms is full release of all hostages, disarmament, and the end of tyranny on folks in Gaza. Most people are families. They want to live. They worry about the price of food. They worry about their kids. We're all human. It's time to end this. But if we end it, and then it happens again in a few years, we haven't ended anything. So it needs to be taken away writ large so that people can go on with their lives.
Since the collapse of the ceasefire, almost 860 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. Almost 200 are women and children. people, when they see the U.S. weapons being used to kill civilians in Gaza, and they don't see the U.S. equally condemning the Israeli for what they're doing in Gaza now, they somehow, the support for Hamas increases, despite that we have seen in the street yesterday. Don't you see this equation?
I think that right now we have, let's put blame where blame should go. Blame should go to terrorists. I don't see Israel holding Palestinian civilian hostages. Blame should go, we just were talking about Iran. They're a threat to everything that Saudi, that the US, that we hold dear, which is stability and people. It's never good when anyone dies. I never rejoice in that, no one ever does. And those situations when a human life is lost, any human life, that's a tragedy. And the people that threaten those people are people that are terrorists. So I will place blame where blame is, and I think it should rest there, and we've got to get rid of it because it will stop.
What's your understanding? You, as you said, you were in Doha a lot, you are in contact with the Egyptians. Where are we as we stand now? I mean, are we going to continue like this, or do you think Hamas is willing now to accept your deal that you said you and Witkoff walked away when Hamas refused to accept it?
I think that we're in a totally different, so there's a few things that are very different about this situation. First and foremost, President Trump changed the whole landscape. And it's amazing how quickly things change, because it didn't just change when he took office, it changed when he was elected. So I would say that has been a big change. The second has been the progress that Israel has been made dismantling terrorists, whether it's Hezbollah, that situation, what happened in Gaza, so what happened in Iran, a major weakening from that perspective because of those actions. Those two things make things possible that weren't possible before. And so that's what we're seeing. And so do I believe now, I think people in the region respect President Trump. They respect a man of action. And I think that he will lead us to a place that is peace. He is not a president that wants war. Look at look at what happened in our first term. We brought Abraham Accords. We came together. We want to unite, and we don't want war, but we're not going to make peace in a weak way. He's not weak, he's strong. And I believe that strong leaders are the people that bring a lasting peace.
With Iran in particular, the administration put heavy sanctions on Iran. As you said, they have been affected badly in Lebanon, in Yemen, and in Gaza. But they're still a powerful player in the region. So what exactly, how the administration is going to go ahead in the next few months to deal with the situation as it is now? The proxies are weakened, but they're there.
I think that President Trump communicated very directly to Iran and said that they had a specific time limit. And I believe, and I know,
3 months?
Yeah, the president will act on that. And I was asked even a lot on TV. They said, well, president said or else. When's or else? The president always ends up delivering, and you see it now. There's more action on the Hamas side. Israel's driving some of that action because they have to be dismantled. Iran should heed the president's warnings. We did this in the first administration, and the president took very specific action against al-Soleimani and Kataib Hezbollah, for that matter, too. And he is creating a situation where terror will not be accepted. So the message the president sent to Iran was enough. And you're going to end it, and you're going to work with us, or there's going to be real problems. And I believe the president of the United States.
So Iran should read it as this is a final ultimatum from the president of the United States.
I think the president reaches out And the president likes options. He does not want to go to war. He does not want to take action because those things are never positive. No, as I said, I never rejoice. I don't think people ever rejoice in the negative, but you need to have that strength to drive lasting peace. And so the president has given fair warning to Iran. It's up to them to respond. And if they don't, then the president will take action with allies, by the way, together. With our Arab allies, with the region. We have great allies. This region has supported us so much, and we're proud of our allies, and we'll do it together.
I want to ask you specifically about this, and it's a point that you mentioned. So the Saudis has helped in the releasing of prisoners of war in Russia and Ukraine. You said the Qataris helped the release of U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan. Tell us about the dynamics in terms of your relationship with Arab allies to secure the release of whether it's U.S. citizens or others who've been held in different parts of the world.
You know, people ask me all the time whether the Abraham Accords are durable, how I feel about it. Look at how much progress we made. I mean, look at where Secretary Rubio, where Mike Waltz, our national security advisor, where did they hold those talks?
In Riyadh and Jeddah.
In Saudi. Imagine that. Look at the strength of our relationship. Look at where MBS has taken Saudi and the progress that it's made and the strength it's built, and that's because of his leadership, and having those talks there is recognition of Saudi's partnership with the United States, the durability of things like Abraham Accords building, and a commitment to ending terror together. And so, I mean, the region has been very effective. We've worked very closely with the Emiratis. You know, I just went to Afghanistan, and that was facilitated out of Doha in Qatar and with Emirati help. We worked very closely together, and it's made a difference. And so I think you're going to see a new region. This is what Steve Witkoff is working so closely on, which is how do we create a pan-Arabian strength, this strength together, with Israel, by the way, together, to make sure that terror doesn't have existence, and that will mean a lot of strength for the Middle East going forward. And Saudi, UAE, they're prime players in this. Egypt, they're prime players in this because they're allies, and I think we've all been working together to say things like Hamas, et cetera, that has to end. There's no progress happening when people are being taken hostage. It just creates destruction. Now let's focus on our strength as a region, the strength of the Middle East region with our allies. That's what's going to happen.
Was the removal of bounty on the Haqqani was part of the deal to release the U.S. hostage?
Well, I think what Secretary Rubio said, and I'll reference his tweet, which was basically, one, we're always looking at things from that perspective, but if Americans don't come home, then you could see pretty big bounties. You could see pretty big bounties. I think he said greater than Osama bin Laden. And so those bounties, they may move around, but they can come back in massive force if we don't have all Americans out.
I want to ask you about Austin Tice in Syria.
Yes.
Hostage Aid, which is an organization, has been dealing with them. They've been in Damascus many times, and they said they facilitated a meeting with the president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, with you, if you want to go there. What's the latest in terms of negotiation to release him? Because he seems to have some information about the whereabouts of Mr. Tice.
I think that Austin Tice is a case that has been a driving force on the hostage side from an American perspective. I speak with Deborah all the time. We speak with the Tices. I think we have Americans that we need to find out where they are and bring them home. And we're committed to that. So I will say, if it means the return of an American, we will go to great lengths to do that. And if that's visiting Syria, if that makes a difference, that's fine, we'll do it. So we're looking into it right now. We're always reviewing this information. And somebody like Austin Tice, we will not forget. I will tell you, every time I go to sleep, Every time I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing on my mind is every American that is still there. My job is great in some ways. It's great because you're able to take somebody and say, welcome home to the United States. I will also tell you it can be terrible too, because what haunts me is every single American waiting, and we've got to bring them all home.
Do you have any proof of life that he's actually somewhere, held somewhere? There was so many rumors, he's in Iraq, he's in Iran, but it seems that the Syrian president have some indication to where he is.
Well, I think the Syrian president, we've been reviewing information, and again, I won't comment on things that are, very closely held. But
you're willing to go to Syria if that means you will.
I'll go anywhere in the world. I'd fly a rocket that Elon Musk could supply me to Mars if there's an American there.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you about also the scholar who's been held in Iraq. And last time you talked about with my colleague, Elizabeth Tsikov.
Yes.
What happened to her? The Iraqi Prime Minister said that he knew the militia was holding her. Any development in her case?
I think Kataib Hezbollah has her, or I know that. And just similar to what President Trump has said to Iran, because they're all related. Extremism won't be tolerated. And I will tell you right now that if she is not released, there are going to be problems. And so I think that message has been delivered, and I expect movement very soon.
Okay, great. See if there's anything else that I haven't asked you about. There is still, as you said, we mentioned Russia. We said there is still American hostages or prisoners that are held there. With this new rapprochement with Russia, do you think that things might ease up to the degree that they might release Paul Wheeler?
I think that we have Americans in Russia, and that has to be discussed and a part of anything that we do with them. It is. Obviously, you see the movement when our envoy, Steve Witkoff, was on a plane, and the difference that made. The president made, obviously, a commitment, actually, in that case, and delivered on that. And that's step one. I mean, look, the nice thing here is we're 60 some odd days in the administration, and I think at this point we're at 37 Americans. At this point in the Biden administration, we were at 0. And so it's just the start. And Russia's a great example of that. There's a lot going on back and forth there, as you may imagine. But it's first and foremost in the president's mind. This is very important. Americans are pretty important to us.
Absolutely. I want to ask you finally about the Abraham Accord.
Yes.
You played a role in the previous one. Mr. Witkoff said that he can envisage Lebanon and Syria being part of it. Do you agree with that? Do you see them being part of it?
I think that if they embrace moderates, because that's what, I mean, look, this is the reality here, and we know this. Your viewers, they're not extremists. The Arab world is not made up of extremists. You have a very small percentage of folks that need to be marginalized, and that needs to be marginalized. But everybody that wants to work for strength in the region and security. So is there a probability or possibility if Syria or Lebanon want to commit to that? I think it's possible. It's always possible. It has to be a real commitment. And I think Steve Witkoff, if that's his judgment and that's the president's judgment, it will be a judgment. Nobody needs to be excluded from this, but they need to have a serious commitment to it also. And it's a commitment against extremism. That's all it is.
But some say that the previous countries who joined the Abraham Accord were never at war with Israel, while the Palestinian issue is the heart of the matter. So as long as there is no solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, on a just solution, whether it's two-state or whatever solution that is agreeable to the main party, which is the Palestinians, you're always going to have extremists in the region. You're always going to have people who will be against Israel as an occupier and against the United States who support Israel. How do you see that?
Well, I think President Trump has made very clear that no people should live in horrible conditions. And he's been very clear that the situation in Gaza cannot continue as it does. when people don't have homes, people don't, and as I said, the president has been very committed to rebuilding. We've got to get a situation where Hamas is out, okay? We've got to, because again, I think from the protests that we see, people in Gaza know that. And then there's a lot that's possible. Again, the president is a peacemaker, but he's a peacemaker through strength and action. And so I think folks all over should know, I know him well, that he means what he says, and that he's committed to action to do things. But a lot's possible there.
I agree with you on all what you said, but the word justice is missing. So it has to be peace through strength, but also justice for all parties, especially the Palestinians.
I think, listen, like I said, nobody likes, there's no situation where innocent people dying anywhere is okay. Anywhere. And there's no situation where we want people not to have the freedom to live one way or the other. And so terror needs to be removed. It needs to be strong. But we are looking for, and the president has said, his suggestions, I think his suggestions, maybe they're controversial. People didn't like shifting, these kind of things. But what is at the heart of what President Trump said? What is at the heart of what President Trump said is he knows that people don't want to live where there's no homes, where it's, so that is, I know him, that's the heart of it, and he's providing solutions. If there's better solutions, he's open to it. But people should know that the president is committed to that, because that's what drives security over time.